In this video, we will try to focus on some of the important things we should consider while predicting the world events. So, one among them is the role of eclipses, you can say. So, eclipses play a very important role in predicting the world events. So, the influence will be experienced for 6 months before or after the appearance of an eclipse. So, eclipse is very powerful. When astrology, mundane astrology, believes that the world changes just because of eclipses only. So, if there are no eclipses, then the world would not change at all. So, that kind of consideration they have with respect to eclipses. So, as there are eclipses every year, most probably 2 solar eclipses, 2 lunar eclipses. Sometimes at max you can see 3 solar eclipses, 3 lunar eclipses per year. So these eclipses actually cause severe changes to the world. The world move forwards or backwards or whatever, it experiences changes because of eclipses only. That is the major consideration. So 6 months before the occurrence of eclipse, 6 months after the occurrence of eclipse, if the eclipse is very powerful, so 6 months before or after the eclipse, you can see the severe changes in the world, right? If the eclipse is very powerful, if the eclipse is very normal, then you can experience some kind of normal changes before and after the occurrence of an eclipse for around 3 plus or minus 3 months, you can say. So the effect of eclipses will be felt on the houses in which eclipse will appear. So if 2 eclipses, let us say 1 solar and 1 lunar, occur within 14 days, just see that within 2 weeks, if you can see 1 solar eclipse and 1 lunar eclipse, so there will generally be national disaster like war, assassination of the ruler, or so some kind of bad events may happen when solar eclipse and lunar eclipse occurs within 14 days of time. So it's not a positive thing when you see eclipses very frequently. So there were, for example, if you see, there were 2 eclipses in March 1914 within 14 days, and that time one of the greatest astrologers of India, something like Surya Narayan Rao sir, right? So predicted the outbreak of the World War One. So eclipses are very powerful compared to other events in mundane astrology. So eclipses have great significance in predicting the world events, you can say. So eclipses also affect leaders and nations also. So the point of eclipse should be correlated to the national chart and chart of the ruler, or let us say it's prime minister or president. So this will yield much information as to the fate of the nation or the ruler of the country or the prime minister of the country or president of the country, whatever. So better we try to correlate the national chart, means the country's foundation chart, and then the current transit chart and the chart of the ruler of the country. So by correlating all of them, all the three, then you can come to a conclusion. So eclipses are very powerful. That is the most important thing. When eclipses occur within 14 days of time, then people generally predict, astrologers generally predict, a war may occur. A war can most probably be related to the signs in which the eclipses actually occur. So the countries related to those particular signs would participate in the war. So transits interpreted in normal, well-known way can also be studied, like appearance of comets and the directions of them. So they also play a major role in understanding the world events. So in timing of events, in the case of a nation, the transit of planets and their conjunction becomes a very vital factor, which are very much important, of course. Now let's try to understand one important scenario here. Earthquake of January 2001 in January in India. So the prediction made on that particular month, the earthquake of January 2001 in Gujarat in India, so it made so easily, and also the planetary position showed clearly the 11th September 2001 incident of USA. So appearance of comets and directions in which they appear should be considered. So the country is represented by the signs in which comets appear, suffer. So in a particular sign, if you observe some comets, the country is represented by those signs generally suffer, and health of the people generally get affected, you can also say. So even in the Brihat Samhita, you can see this, you can check this. Brihat Samhita, basically written by Varaha Mihira. So it has been recorded in history that whenever large comets made their appearance, great misfortunes have befallen in the shape of earthquakes, wars, famines. So in 1903, if you observe, in the year 1903, a comet was discovered in the sign of Aquarius, which represents war, of course, in the countries related to the sign Aquarius. So, and in 1905, a most significant event in the form of the Russia and Japanese war took place, in which of course, Japanese defeated Russians that time. So it was an event of great signification in which a European nation was for the first time defeated by an Asian country like Japan. So it's an indication of rise of nationalism in most of Asia also the time. Even if you observe the comet related stuff, generally we talk about the Halley comet. So prior to appearance of Halley comet, it was written in 1910, that is 1910. So there were great changes in the world, like earthquakes, famines, even followed by the Chinese Revolution of 1911. So it is said that comets appearing in the east is going to trigger the event of the birth of a new prophet. In the west, especially in cardinal signs, they show trouble and represent wars and invasions. The comets appearing in the signs representing particular countries show trouble in those countries, basically. So something like you take something like Leo. Generally, people represent USA, right, with the sign Leo. And if you observe a comet in the sign of Leo, then obviously there would be some troubles, there would be some problems to the country USA. So this way, whenever you observe a comet in a particular sign, then the countries related to that sign would suffer. Then retrogression of planets can also be considered in order to understand the world events. So it's absurd that major changes, good or bad, have taken place on the days planets have retrograded or have become direct. It is also seen that when planets change the signs or become combust, also show some significant changes in the world. Something like if let us say Saturn is in Capricorn and Saturn is now changing to the sign Aquarius, then you can see a change, significant change in the world. So some examples, if you observe, even in the Mahabharata, in the Udyoga Parva, we also discussed this in another one of our other videos. So Karna explained to Krishna why the battle of Kurukshetra would be owned by Pandavas. In that, one of the reasons Karna mentioned, was the time Mars was retrograding from Jyeshtha to Anuradha. So whenever Mars retrogrades from the sign, from the nakshatra Jyeshtha to Anuradha, then the general prediction is the ruler in power may lose the battle. So in ancient days, kings generally they did not used to start any kind of wars when Mars was retrograding from Jyeshtha to Anuradha. So it was a sure indication for fall and destruction of kings and power. So that's why it was one of the reasons why Pandavas actually lost. Kauravas actually lost the war, because Kauravas were the kings in power at that time. So Mars stays in a particular Rashi, in a particular zodiac sign for about 5 months, once in 3 years, and during such periods it has repeated direct and retrograde motions. So one of the principles is wars are caused when Saturn, Mars and Rahu are together, are aspecting each other, or in kendras from each other, and when Mars retrogrades. So this is one of the fundamentals we generally see whenever there is a strong relationship between Mars, Rahu and Saturn. A war can be triggered. They are together, or they are aspecting each other, or they are in kendras to each other. 1, 4, 7, 10, something like if Mars is in one sign, and from there if you move 4 houses, if you find Saturn, and then if you just move another, so 1, 4, 7, 10 in this particular relationship. So 1, 4, 7, 4, 7, 10, 10, 1, 4, like that. So just 3 houses away, so if one planet is in one house, and just move 4 houses, is including the house in which the planet is actually present. So just move 4 houses away. So if you find another planet like Saturn, Mars, Rahu, if these 3 are in kendras, then you can say there is a war. And even more, if Mars retrogrades, that would be a sure shot indication of triggering of war. And another important thing you need to consider is Vimshottari Dasha and annual chart. So Vimshottari Dasha will be applied in case of countries whose birth data is actually available. So that is one of the important things. So you can clearly see, if you really want to predict events of a particular country, the Vimshottari Dasha should also be considered. There is another important chart, that is use of the Varshafala or annual chart in predicting world events. So that's another important thing that we are going to focus more in our upcoming videos. The annual chart. So the foundation chart, eclipses, the solar index charts, the lunation charts, right? And then the Vedic New Year chart. If you just see all of them, you just find the energies of that particular country. Also, better the astrologer who is checking all these things also know something about the country, the previous history of the country. So in which year so and so event happened in this particular country. So that knowledge is also very much important. So the astrologer who is checking all these things should be able to pinpoint the areas of tension and historical background of various forces applied in that particular country. Social and economical background is also of utmost importance, as modern wars are fought on both economic and ideological background. So causes of the First World War can never be analyzed unless one understands the great economic forces at work, and especially role of arms industry at the time, the armament industry, you can say. So even the great revolutions like the Russian Revolution of 1917 has the economics exploitation as the background. Post Second World War movements had uh, you know had an impact of rise of nationalism. Even the recent terroristic movements of different countries in different countries. So better the economic conditions of a country, the warlike situation, the terroristic activities of so and so countries be studied before predicting anything for a particular country. So it's not possible to give very good predictions without adequate historical and socio-economic and cultural background of the nations. And also some people have some kind of the doomsday, uh, they have tendency to give some kind of doomsday kind of predictions. So for all astrological predictions, like we generally predict war, earthquake, accidents, death. But rarely predictions have been given about the positive achievements of the nations. Of course, positive things, good, but negative things are mentioned just to give a kind of warning, or better the countries, they try to take some precautionary measures. So this kind of predictions, the doomsday kind of predictions, making such kind of predictions and making the people a bit panic, uh, would be a kind of unwelcoming thing. But still, it is also, it's not like, see, the whole world ending in one particular day, is not so possible. But gradually uh, some parts of the world may get destroyed. This kind of predictions, if astrologers can give them, they can migrate to other countries and they can save their lives. So that is of course a kind of welcoming thing, means the prediction, you know and also it is absolutely necessary to keep oneself informed about political developments of the political parties, because based on the political party developments also we can try to predict something uh, for that particular country, what kind of political party is actually existing in so and so country. So based on that also we can try to predict something better. So for example, Indian National Congress was established in 1885. It was first split in 1969 and again in 1977 by Indira Gandhi. So to give predictions about Indian National Congress, we have to use the chart of the Congress party. So means when it was established in 1885, so that chart, right, can be used better. So like that, if you see another important just a notable point here is the lagna of BJP is actually some people consider it as a Cancer lagna, but it is Gemini. The ascendant of BJP can be Gemini. So better we also consider the ascendant of political parties whenever we try to predict uh, some events about a country and that political party. So astrologer, whoever is trying to predict the world events, must also keep himself informed of our rich cultural tradition of the Puranas, the Mahabharata. This kind of things also can, they also educate the astrologer to give better predictions about India, because see, the results of Saturn, Rahu's entry into Rohini Nakshatra and wars and communal riots in India has its basis in Mahabharata and Puranas. So whenever Saturn and Rahu they together or they enter Rohini Nakshatra, there would be some kind of communal riots, you can say. So use of chakras for accurate predictions. So chakras are most potent tools, you can say. See, much of the secrets of chakras have been lost, of course. Some traditional astrologers still have some knowledge of them, but with a poor historical background, they are not able to make much use of it. Kurma chakra, the Rashi Sanghatta chakra, Nakshatra Sanghatta chakra, Tripataki chakra are some of the tools that are still available to the astrologers so that they can try predicting events better. So various things must be considered. All these things, the foundation chart, the lunation charts, solar ingress charts, the Vedic New Year charts, eclipses in that particular year, right? So retrogression of planets, conjunction of planets, right? So the planetary positions, like if Saturn, Rahu and Mars, if they are actually have a very strong relationship, or they are in kendras with respect to each other, predicting wars, the time, and when Saturn or Rahu is entering into the Rohini Nakshatra, predicting something bad to India. So these are some fundamental historical background related things. So you can use those things as well whenever you try predicting events related to India. So India and other countries as well, right? Any other country. So thanks for watching this video.